Good afternoon, everybody. I'm George. I'm creating a silver world one day at a time by the grace of God and the fellowship of the saints in recovery. This is the Nothing book study, sober discussion of being and non-being. Let's start our meeting out today with a moment of silence followed by our opening prayer. Almighty God, to you all hearts are open, all desires known, and from you no secrets are hid. Cleanse the thoughts of our hearts by the inspiration of your Holy Spirit, that we may perfectly love you and worthily magnify your holy name through Christ our Lord. Amen. Creating a sober world is a fellowship of men and women who have each taken responsibility for sharing our experience, strength, and hope with a world that is addicted to everything. The only requirement for CASW membership is the willingness to be nothing. There are no dues or fees. For creating a sober world membership, we are self-supporting through our own contributions. CASW is not allied with any sect, not denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes except for the cause of Christ, who first became nothing by emptying himself out and becoming nothing on our behalf. Our primary purpose is to be nothing and bring the world to the nothing that we have found. The co-founder, All About Nothing, the co-founder of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, said this in regard to being nothing. At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seemed wise, for I showed signs of delirium tremens. There I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood him to do with me as he would. And for the first time, I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted, for the first time, that of myself I was nothing. St. John of the Crossroads, to reach satisfaction of all desires, possession of nothing, to come to possess all desire, the possession of nothing, to arrive at being all desire, to be nothing. In part of the 20th century Western literature, British American poet T.S. Eliot identified with nothing. I've been freed from the self that pretends to be someone, and becoming no one I begin to live. It's worthwhile dying to find out what life is. The Apostle Paul says, if a man thinks he's something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. We identify with a passage from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians, for it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. We practice the 12 steps in all our affairs, and we're governed as a community by the 12 traditions first developed by Alcoholics Anonymous. We gather in face-to-face and then virtual meetings hosted on Zoom. Our meetings are listed online at soberworld.com. We don't have any newcomers today, but thanks for everybody for being here. I surely do appreciate it. We are at 30 minutes. We'll take a break, and I will try to keep the schedule on schedule and actually do that. For announcements, we'll begin to bring the meeting to a close at 12:55 and take time for an exchange of phone numbers and brief pop-up shares from members in regard to actions we plan to take to create a sober world. This meeting is a study and discussion of the book Nothing, a sober discussion of being and non-being. We'll read and discuss the book until 12:35 and then open the room for timed 5-minute shares. And generally speaking, Vladimir will be the timekeeper when we do our time 5-minute shares. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and close out right now. What I'll do is I'll volunteer to be the newcomer greeter, but we don't have any newcomers, but I'll be the newcomer greeter after the meeting. So we'll go ahead and stop this for now, and we'll go to our book. Does anybody want to say anything to check in? Just take a little quick check-in share. Do anybody need to say anything just to be here and be present with us? Sometimes my blind shade there. Okay, so what we're doing is we're reading the book Nothing. By the way, I will mention that in writing the book, Hitting Bottom in UA, the chapter after Absolute Humiliation is the chapter on nothing. And so, it's hard for people to, I can't say it's hard for people to grasp. I think if I write it out pretty clearly, people can see the advantage of you just admitting that you're nothing, because it is just the truth. philosophically and scientifically and spiritually. It's just the truth, but we all tend to think that we're something, or we're trying to be something, trying to prove something or control something. And the truth about it is, when we allow ourselves just to be nothing, then God can flow through us and use us in whatever way He wants to use us. So anyway, I think that's important to know that. Hey, Charlie, I see your.
Yeah, I took it off mute. I'm stopped here. Mary went into the bank for a minute, so I'm
Okay.
stopped for a minute.
That's great. Okay, so what we're going to go do, we're in the second chapter of the Nothing book. We're on the page, Is Nothing Sacred? Who would like to read Is Nothing Sacred? Vladimir, would you like to read Is Nothing Sacred there? Can you do that?
Oh, let me start. Yes. Is nothing sacred? For it's written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Corinthians. Many thanks to friends and family members who have lovingly and patiently played along with me when I tell them I'm reading a book about nothing. My hearing aid technician at the VA audiology clinic laughingly explained, is nothing sacred? My dental hygienist remarked, you mean like Seinfeld, a show about nothing? Several jokingly asked if it was a book with only blank pages. Others allowed.
Do you understand the joke about Is Nothing Sacred comes out of a Monty Python movie? I think something like The Life of Christ or something like that. That was a punchline in that movie, Is Nothing Sacred. And so that,
yeah, Monty Python, yes.
Yeah, okay, keep going. Yeah.
Others allowed me to get a little deeper into nothing. Those who are aware of the current views of the origin of the universe in the Big Bang were usually unaware of the subtle behind-the-scene battles over the meaning of nothing, out of which our cosmos seems to have emerged some 13.74 billion years ago. I put meaning in quotation marks because it is the very nature of nothing to defy any attempt at definition. Do you not see then that not being in itself can neither be spoken, uttered, or thought, but that it is unthinkable, unutterable, unspeakable, undescribable? The stranger in Plato's Sophist. Those more philosophically attuned were interested in controversies over being and non-being, which originated with the ancient Greeks. Some were familiar with the apocryphal story of Socrates being puzzled when he was told that the oracle of Delphi has called him the wisest man in all Greece because he knew that he knew nothing. Others were aware of it. Nothing is dealt within major Eastern religious teachings, such as not self, anatta in Buddhism, and not being, wu in Taoism. I avoided mentioning the war against nothing, which has been ongoing at least since Friedrich Nietzsche declared that God is dead and we have killed him. I wonder if he would have gone to the length he did in his war against God and Western rationality if he had known that 20th century science will find, but arrogantly refuse to concede that our cosmos is finite and has started from nothing. Should I continue?
Keep going.
Okay. Much too late in life did I finally catch up with the 70s philosophical old-time bestsellers Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. There, Robert Pirsig presented the rejection of the nothing by Western thinkers. He referred to the nothing as virtue and dynamic quality, as the source of a current bondage to valueless rationality and subject-object dualism. My Christian family members and friends were either unaware of or did not appreciate the significance of the nothing in Christian thought. They were mostly surprised when I pointed out that St. Paul has said, if a man thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. or that many other saints of the church age had embraced their own nothingness. To reach satisfaction in all, desire its possession in nothing, to come to possess all, desire to possess the possession of nothing, to arrive at being all, desire to be nothing. St. John of the Cross. In popular 20th century Western literature, British American poet T.S. Eliot identified with nothing. I've been freed from the self that pretends to be someone, and in becoming no one, I begin to live. It is worthwhile dying to find out what life is.
And just read this and just come to when you just
Okay.
finish this, and that'll be it.
I myself came to nothing through my encounter with the writing of the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. In the AA text, Bill Wilson recounts his surrender to being nothing when he entered his final hospitalization for detoxification from alcohol. At the hospital, I was separated from alcohol for the last time. Treatment seems wise, for I showed sign of delirium tremens. There I humbly offered myself to God, as I understood him, to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself, I was nothing.
Okay, well, great. Thank you so much, Vladimir. And what we'll do is, I think this is probably all we're going to read today. We'll just take time, 5-minute shares until people run out of things to say. So we've got 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, 15, 18 minutes before the break. That'll give us time for 3 shares, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll have another share, and then repeat shares as much as people would like to share. Who would like to go first to share on this opening topic of the book? If nobody wants to share, I'll go ahead and share. Vladimir, just give me 5 minutes. Thank you. Well, I mean, why I wrote this book was I was thrashing around after I wrote my absolutely sober book, and I was reading different philosophers, and I stumbled across Heidegger, and I began to realize he began to say things like pure being and pure non-being are the same. He began to talk about nothing and the way about being and non-being in a very curious way. And then the next thing I know, I noticed that Bill Wilson had said what he said about at the hospital. I was separated from alcohol for the last time for treatment, seeing why where I showed signs of delirium tremens. And there, offering myself to God, so they understood and do with me. For the first time, I admitted that myself, I was nothing. Well, it was shocking. I may have mentioned this before, but I did a blog on this. Totally shocking. I had never seen that. I had never thought about being nothing. It had never dawned on me. But then I began to kind of absorb it, and I started writing about nothing. And as you begin to realize, this book is a record of my 6 years of dealing with the topic, and it's a spiritual journey. So actually, I'm taking you on a spiritual journey. I started off by writing about the universe starting from nothing, the Big Bang, and the science of that. And you can go on these internet sites and see all the discussions they have about that. And then the next thing I did a discussion of the fact that there is no matter as such. All matter is just the energy. And the product of some sort of conscious, intelligent mind. And so, but bit by bit, I began to put together the first chapters of the book. And it was then that this fellow Daniel, who was and you might have bumped into him in the beginning of the gratitude meeting, Vladimir, but Daniel Krenz from Southern California, he told me to write this reality book, Peter Kingsley's book on reality, and that the reason why we think about nothing the way we think about it in Western culture was all due to the fact that the goddess Persephone said, "Don't say nothing. Nothing doesn't exist, so don't say that word." And so she forbade she forbade Parmenides from saying nothing. And it turns out, as you see with Socrates there, I mean, Socrates mention nothing, because nothing, the Greeks clearly couldn't talk about nothing. Of course, when Christianity comes along, Christianity has a sense that that the whole universe started from nothing. Of course, God creates it out of nothing. And so it's a totally different worldview. So you have two different worldviews, although most Christians have kind of become scientific in the way they think about things, so they don't really think in terms of the way the Bible teaches. But what we're really doing is, and I just want to shift gears a little bit. The last day or so, I've been really wacky. I had several pages written about this. A lot of it was about the history of Bill Wilson and what he had to say about this nothing. And I just had to kind of delete that whole chapter and start all over and write this chapter on the chapter on nothing in this hitting bottom in UA book. I'm thinking about, okay, how do I write this in a way that people who come into UA can benefit from this understanding of being nothing? And of course, I mean, I've talked with Vladimir, and Charlie's kind of bought into the nothing, and I think Andreas is beginning to catch on to the nothing. Is that when you take the position of I'm nothing, it's really it's really liberating spiritually to not try to prove I've got nothing to prove, I've got nothing to explain, I am nothing. Basically, what I'm doing is thank you, Vladimir. I'm bringing the whole world to nothing. I mean, what we're doing, and see, Bill Wilson, he has one line in there where and I mentioned that in this. So why did he put that one line right there on page 13? It's interesting how he did that. And I think he was somewhat of a genius. And I think Bill probably realized that he could never fully follow through with that one word. But when you go back and realize what a genius he was to pull off this thing where he was able to get this thing going, he had 18 people over in Akron that were sober, and he had 4 or 5 over in New York City were sober, and he was part of this Oxford group. And, you know, he was this guy from Vermont, not really a New Yorker, or not really an extra, not even a Christian kind of guy. He was a kind of a Vermont liberal, and how he was able to pull this off. He's the consummate salesman to get it to where and he could write this book. You know, he said, "Let me write the book." So he wrote the book, and the book goes out, and people read the book. Thank you. I'll catch up with this. I got a second share later on. Who wants to go next? Who wants to go next? Don't be bashful. I'll call on somebody. I'm not gonna call on Charlie. He's out walking around. Unless Charlie, okay, Vladimir, you go ahead and share.
Well, thank you. Let me put my timer. I don't know if I'm going to use 5 minutes. Yeah, it's yeah, the first time we started talking about this being nothing, and most of all, the part that shocked me, I would say that shocked me the most, was this addiction to nothing. And it's yeah, it's because there's nothing else than God. So it's interesting that I have discovered that I'm addicted to nothing, that I'm addicted to things that doesn't exist, that don't exist. So, and as you said, it's becoming more and more because it was not hard, but it was hard to let go, you know, of my notions, the way I used to see the world, because it's so ingrained. I was born that way. I was raised that way, you know, pseudo scientifically, and yeah, the two sides of my family, they are, you know, engineers and surgeons and so on. So there was not much, you know, about religion at home. I grew up being Orthodox, and but that was all. It was a baptism, and that's it. I myself, I was interested in Christianity, and yeah, to let go all of this and start to accept that I'm addicted to nothing and that I'm nothing. It becomes it started to become my English is weird today. It's kind of weird to be I mean, once I accept the moments I accept it fully, I feel really comfortable. You know, it's like I heard right now. I have nothing to prove. There's nothing to do right there. There's nothing to fight for. There's nothing to be sad for. So it's kind of a peaceful place to be, to accept that. And at the same time, for me, it's wonderful that way I'm really, I would say I'm in God and God is in me, you know, and so I have a real, I have a creator, and I have no other person upon me, you know. That's the reason why I fight sometimes, because I think the other person is trying to be my creator. It's kind of a weird concept that I know, but is no one else is my author, and that's very, very obvious when I accept the fact that I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I mean, body is nothing, things are nothing, and I'm addicted to it. It's really hard to understand myself without this envelope, you know. So, but it's good. It makes me feel light, I would say, at peace, confident, I would say. Yeah, confident, and that I don't have to struggle. I don't have to, you know, to make the hard decision myself without help. That's something that I have done all my life. Even now, I'm trying to keep, you know, doing the things I think I have to do the way I think I should do it. So it's good. It's good to be. I have 1 minute left, but I think I'm not going to use it. So it's good. I'm happy. I'm grateful that I'm here, and happy to be a part of this. Not conversation, but this is more than a conversation. This is well, this is recovery. That's what I see. So thank you.
Thanks, Vladimir. Who wants to go next? Charlie, Andrea, go ahead, Andrea.
This is Andrea, and I heard sorry, I have a bad cold, so it's I hope my voice comes through. Yes, you know, of myself, I am nothing. That's so true. You know, when I stop thinking, intentionally, I feel like lost. You know, I feel like I'm floating in the empty space. You know, it's doesn't feel good. And then what happens is that, you know, I get so exhausted putting in so much effort in, you know, in oriented actions, and I get so tired, and I have to just admit, you know, that of myself I am nothing. You know, I get to that point, I'm beaten into that point out of tiredness and exhaustion, you know, and so I get there, and I finally admit that of myself I am nothing, you know, and that's when, you know, I totally identify, you know, with feeling liberated. You know, it's okay, the fight is over, the struggle is over. There is no I, you know, and that's, you know, that's why the fight is over. You know, that's why, you know, it's not it's usually not really a choice, just an admission. You know, I don't choose to be nothing. You know, I admit, you know, I do not have the resources. You know, I cannot create my own reality. It doesn't come from my interior. You know, it's I love, you know, I do my to-do lists, and then I go through them, and then I check my progress, and then I get tired, you know, and I get out of the way. And when I get out of the way, good things happen, you know, and maybe not exactly what I wanted, you know, but close enough. and most likely that's God's will for me, you know, and it happens when I stop trying to force things, you know, and that's I'm going through this one more time in these days, you know, focusing on this first step literature and going through the steps again. With George, no, it's very useful, you know. It's so difficult to, it's been, so to say, relatively easy to apply to alcohol and drugs, because my life was such a disaster, you know, and it's so much more difficult to apply this to my, you know, I am I'm a work addict, and I'm an under earner. So it's insane, you know. I overwork and under earn, and it's very toxic, you know. It's a very toxic combination, and still it's difficult to see, you know, because you know, being an hard worker is you know, it's not like being a junkie or a, you know, a
1 minute.
drunk sitting on a bench.
1 minute, Andrea.
Thank you. And so I think that's all I have, you know, and yes, I am feeling this like liberated, you know, by forgetting a little bit about the big I, and letting just you know, life happen, I guess. And I'll pass. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. We're going to do a halftime break right now. Let me see. I don't think I have the halftime thing on here. I think what I've got is I probably have the I probably got the shares and all that. I don't have the halftime break. Okay, so I've got to I'm going to have to put the halftime break information there. But basically, normally it's, you know, we don't have any dues for creating a Sober World membership. If you'd like to be support CSW financially, we do have expenses. It does cost me money to rent the Zoom thing, and I've got other expenses that, you know, just keeping Sober World going as a corporation. But so some people you know, support us, and you can support us for whatever little bit you can. At the PayPal link at soberworld.com, www.soberworld.com. There's a PayPal link if you want to. Some people support us $10 a month or $2 or $3 a month. It really doesn't make any difference. But anything you'd like to do would be appreciated anyway. But you're not obligated to pay to anything. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop just to create a sober world, basically, to create a sober world. That's the only reason, you know, in other words, the world is sick. It needs to sober up, and you're willing to take responsibility, then you can come in and become a member of Create Sober World. The only requirement for membership is a willingness to be nothing. And so then the creator can, when we're nothing, the creator can operate through us and create whatever new thing he's going to create. And I can see God is bringing some really interesting people together here. Some people here are they're very passionate about making a difference in the world. And you guys keep coming back, and I believe that God's going to really inspire you to do great things. I know He's the creator, and he can work through us to create whatever he desires to create. Okay, who'd like to go next? Charlie, it's your turn. You want to go? You're going. Okay, go ahead, Charlie. Go. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I'll see the timer's not up there now. There you go. Thank you, Vladimir. It's very interesting to me because I got in, you know, I have not had the life experience of addiction that goes through the 12-step things that like so many people that I know have. And so it puts me for kind of a different perspective, maybe, I don't know. But I got into this concept of being nothing very easily. It was in thinking about St. Francis, and I don't know how much you folks are aware of the man that he was, but you know, I think 14th, 15th, 16th century, whatever that was. He was a nobleman. I mean, so he was something. He was something in his community or whatever, a young man. And he had great desires to be a great soldier and whatever noblemen did back in those days. But then he came to the understanding that that's not what was good for him. And he decided, I know, I'll give everything away. And he spent some time getting rid of everything to the point where he took his clothes off and walked through town naked, you know. I mean, he gave it all away. And I got into this, like saying, thinking about him because I realized from other things in his life that he did all this, spent all this effort to get rid of everything because he wanted to have nothing. And when he got there, he realized he had everything. It's impossible to get rid of, you know, he had no worries anymore because everything was his, but it was his not on his own thought up terms or whatever, but on the terms of the one who created it. And that's that was the thing. And so years ago, I was telling people, you should feel sorry for St. Francis because he tried so hard to be nothing and ended up with everything. And it also brings in the craziness to me of things like St. John of the Cross's quote that we read earlier, you know, where if you want to have everything, have nothing. If you want to gain the world, you know, get rid of everything. You know, it's just that, oh, so you're not really trying to be nothing, you're really trying to be everything. And it's that thing that takes the loop. And so I'm going to kind of end this up with something that is a personal experience. I happened to be trolling the television for some reason. I got tired, Andre. And I was clicking through trying to look for something to watch, and I saw a Nova program that had been recorded, and it was titled Zero to Infinity. And it was a documentary hosted by a mathematician from California, of all places. And it's about the fact that, you know, zero was the last number that we came up with. You know, the numbers were all there to count things and keep track of things and make sure we had things. You know? What do you do with nothing? There's no such thing as nothing, you know, these mathematicians. And then when they had to have a nothing because of the algebra and the way things work out. It's got to be there, but it's nothing. And so what do we do with it? And that's when they came up with, well, we'll just make this as a circle thing for a zero. But then they discovered very quickly when they started working the math that, you know, you can divide things up by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and the rules are all there. But what the heck when you divide it by nothing? And if you divide it by nothing, you get something that the mathematicians simply say it's undefined. It's what do you get? You get more and more and more and more and more. And then they made that crazy lazy 8 symbol and called it, some people call it infinity, but George would whip me with a wet noodle at least if I said infinity. But it's undefined. It's nothing. We're all nothing. So zero is one thing. Infinity maybe it's mathematically, but in the end, we're all undefined. And the only thing that really is God. You know, that's the bottom line. And so I'll leave it to him to figure out the philosophy. And that's my share.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you very much. Well, I'll just take another share. I'll take 3 minutes and then let you guys each take 3 minutes to the extent that you might want to take a double dip, and then we'll just begin to wrap it up. But yeah, I found it very difficult to kind of, for several days, I was struggling with this chapter. I was putting, I had a chapter pretty much was all about Bill Wilson and the struggles he went through. You know, he was a smart young fella, and his mom and dad left him, and who did we lose? Mom and dad left him. Or one of Charlie's. Okay, his mom and dad left him. Then his girlfriend died, and Bertha Bramett, she died on him, and you know, he was a kind of a tall, awkward guy, kind of smart, but just felt really rejected. And so his whole life was about being under. He was definitely an under-beer, you know. And I had that chapter, and then I realized I just had to just take the whole chapter and stick it somewhere else, and I couldn't use that chapter. And it's a struggle sometimes when you're writing to write what God wants me to write. So this morning I got up and I started writing again, and it was not pleasant. I had to go through the confession of self-pity, feeling sorry for myself, angry and frustrated and hopeless and in despair. Otherwise, I had to deal with all those emotions that stand in the way of being creative and doing the thing that God wants you to do. And so this morning I got in there, I wrote, I'm thinking about in terms, and actually I got the email back from Clara, who's the head of the GSB. She said she's going to call me when she gets back from vacation, whenever that is. But I am going to talk to her about giving her this, what I've written in the booklet, but I'll have more of it written by then. I mean, I'm kind of out of the kind of the dead end I kept going down. We were trying to tell Bill's story, but I really couldn't put Bill's story back in there because it really doesn't belong. I've already mentioned enough of the AA history, so I don't need to go through it again. So I'm just dealing with the, you know, kind of summary of the nothing, and then I'll be talking about how Plato came and got us hooked into this being and becoming. And so it's real hard for people to get out of thinking. Most people think that they're a self in a trinity. Plato's trinity is being, becoming, and the ego I, disembodied soul. That's the trinity for most people, and that's why the philosophical world is self-centered. It's centered on the self. But the world that we're involved in is I'm nothing, and there's being, non-being, and becoming. And the center of my cosmos is the cross. And I'm actually going to put it in this little booklet. And I'm sticking it further down the line, but hopefully by the time people get to it, they won't reject it when I tell them that this is how you get rid of this. Take yourself out of the center of your cosmos and put God in the center of your cosmos by putting the cross there. I'm not going to try to preach the cross, but I'm going to show the cross in a way I think is going to be very helpful. And they may reject it, but that doesn't make a difference. The book will be out there for people to use. And anyway, thanks for letting me share. More will be said, you know, as I move along. I'm getting more confident in this thing now. I'll be sharing it with you. And we'll be going over in the nothing, in the hitting bottom and UA group on Thursdays. Okay, who wants to share next? Take another dip. Who'd like to go?
No, I just I have a question. When Charlie was talking about San Francis, is San Francesco de Assisi, right? Okay, okay.
What was the question?
I heard Charlie. I know that it's a little bit cross talk, but I was asking of San Francis that Charlie was mentioning, and for me it was San Francesco de Assisi, no? San
Right.
Francis of Assisi. Okay, that's what I wanted to be sure, to be clear.
Sure. Yeah.
That's who I was talking about.
Okay, anybody else want to share? Take another 3-minute share, or however long you want to share. Okay. Well, we don't have to. We don't have.
Who did you say? Were you? I thought was Vladimir. Or say something? Or no? Okay.
I just had that question. That's all.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to say anything? Okay. Well, we don't have to drag it out. We can go ahead and close this out if you want to. I'll take just another share and just simply saying, so this little booklet will get out there, and hopefully it's going to be helpful to the people in UA recovery. But it will be kind of in the Christian slanted thing. But there are an awful lot of Christians in UA. I keep running into them all the time. Guys who come into UA and they find in UA a real good way to practice the process of surrender of self to God and confession of shortcomings and all that's a real good. It's a good, you might say, Saint, what's this, a Loyola, Saint Ignatius of Loyola, who invented
Yeah.
came up with
Ignacio,
yeah.
Ignace of Loyola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Father Dolan thought. He thought that the 12 steps are very much like the spiritual practices of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Okay, so anyway, that's it's a creative process. I've been more hopeless and in despair than I have been in months. It's really crazy. It's odd. It's, like what's going on that I'm feeling in so much despair. But my sense is whenever I'm going through that is I'm beginning to minister to a whole nother bunch of people, and I'm beginning to feel the pain of the people that I've got to reach. I'm reaching out to. And so, and part of, and then this is the way it works also, is we carry the steps on to other people, that as we pray and we begin to deal with these negative emotions, a lot of times it's not just our emotions, it's that we're also beginning to reach out and touch other people, and God is preparing us to know what it's going to feel like to reach out to people who may be very resistant to what we're saying. So it's important that we're always taking those negative emotions to God and giving them away. Did you want to say something, Vladimir? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my timer here. I don't know if I'm gonna use it 3 minutes. Yeah, I wanted to say that it's a big relief. I'm going through a really difficult times, very tight, and it's I normally I have this tendency of solving the situation, but this time I know that I'm completely powerless. Completely powerless. I have tried everything, and so it's a big relief to remember when I open my eyes in the morning, and instead of thinking of my problem or problems, I don't know, instead of that is to remind myself that hey, slow down. There's nothing to struggle with. Stop. You are just putting in your mind a lot of nothing. I mean, a lot of things that are worrying and despair and projecting and having thoughts, negative thoughts, and instead of that, it's just about it's kind of a prayer, saying to myself, and probably I say it out loud. I think I say it out loud. Sometimes I don't say it out loud. And it's like, okay, remember one thing, there's only God. And there's nothing there to be aware of. It's hard for me to do that. It's really hard for me to pull down my thoughts, my mind, and, like putting my mind in a narrow path and, going to, let's see, say, to think of God and stay there. And all of a sudden I start to feel calm, and I start to recognize once again, as I heard, I admit that I'm without God, I'm nothing. So there is God there, and it's better for me to keep that in mind instead of trying desperately to solve a situation that I'm powerless. I have tried many times in different ways, and it doesn't work. So my fear is that, what is going to happen? Well, I have to accept it. It's going to be God's will, nothing else. And thanks God, it's God's will, not mine, because here I am because of my own will. So it clearly doesn't work, but I still try to keep, when I open my eyes in the morning, oh my God, I have to do, no, you don't have to, you have tried. So it's a relief. It's like, I can breathe. I don't know if I'm going to be sleeping, out there, dying in a gutter, as sometimes I feel I'm going to end up, but that's not the case. Thanks God. I'm going to leave it that way.
Man.
Oh, there is is Charles. He wants to speak.
Yes, it's kind of, my brain doesn't work like it used to. It's becoming more nothing. But I did have something that I wanted to share that went away, and then now it came back thanks to Vladimir and some of the things that George said. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm nothing. So what use am I? I'm nothing at all. What use? What am I here for? Well, the simple fact is I don't know, and I can never know. But I know one thing: I am here, and I'm here, and I'm engaged. And this has become my life much more than it was in the past. But it's still it's been my life for a long time now. That I find my reality and my answers, if you want, my joy for sure, in things like what we're doing right now. Just small groups of other people that I can share this nothingness, if you want, with and listen to them. I'm not helping them. I'm not ministering to them. I'm not, I'm just being there. It's almost like when you go to a funeral. You walk up to the casket and the one guy's dead, you're still alive, and all the family members are around there, and some are crying, some are laughing, some are happy he's gone, some are really sad, you know what I mean? But you don't know anything about where they are or whatever, and you know that the next day is going to come, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the months and the years will come for each one of those people. And they will continue on alive as long as they live, and they'll deal with it. And so being there is just being with them and just sharing that joy that you have, that gift, and realizing that, yeah, there are a lot of things. I could do a lot of things. There are a lot of possibilities. But even the ones that look the best to me may turn out to be the worst according to God's will. And so it's just taking little baby steps, I think. And the interesting thing that I want to share with you guys right now, because this is a real fact in my life, especially the last few weeks, there've just been so many completely off the wall occurrences that didn't seem to be related to anything, and that where I was in the middle of it, and I have no idea what is going to come out of it. It doesn't look like anything, just people passing into my life and then out. And so it's just that joy of knowing, well, that happened. What's next? And that's all I've got to say. Stay with little groups of friends, and that will help you.
Amen. Well, one of the things that you can always say if you don't want to know what you're doing, you can always say, well, I'm creating a civil world. At least George says I'm creating a civil world. As long as I keep showing up, and that's what you're doing, and nobody knows what it is.
You're doing great work, George. You are doing great work. I love it.
Bless you. Andrea, you want to take another share? Go ahead. 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you. So I also have a virtual background.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Only one without one. This is one of my favorites. No, just a comment on slogans. I like the UA slogan. There is a very short one that goes like do the next take the next indicated step, or something like that. Take the next indicated action, which I identify with lots more than the more traditional, do the next right thing. I don't know what the next right thing is. I don't know. If the day I think I know what the next right thing is, it's I get myself in trouble. And just that, it's I like that way of probably saying the same, expressing the same notion, no, that just try to follow instructions and stick to the basics of the program. No, that's it's I really like I like this this message. So okay, George wrote a few books out of a few lines of the big book. Yeah. But it's I love it. It's a page 1 in step 1 in this booklet here. Sorry, and then page 13 and 14. It's just few lines, and there is so much wisdom in those few lines. It's so much, so simple and so life changing. It's all in there. At least the foundation of a new life. So yeah, I rather like the UA version of this slogan. Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Bless you guys for being here. Thank you. We've had a great meeting, and any burning desires, any last minute shares, anybody wants to say anything, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do the closing, and I think we can do things like actions you want to take. Oh, hang on, I got it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, here we go. Looky here, on Mondays we have the we need to put the nothing book there on Mondays. Tuesday we have gratitude, and Wednesday we got the hitting bottom in UA meeting on Thursdays at the same time, noon on, but all these days. You can email me at soberworld@soberworld.com. You can go to www.soberworld.com and you can see the website. What I'll do is after this meeting's over with, I'm gonna go to the gym and work out for about an hour. And I do that twice a week, and then I'll come home and fix supper for my wife. I got doing chicken stew today, and that's my actions. Anybody wants to share actions you're gonna take today?
Well, I'm gonna pray a little bit more later on, and be grateful because I finished my model that was a real headache. So I'm really grateful. It's coming really nice, really nice. I'm grateful for that, and I'm gonna go to this meeting. I'm gonna come to this meeting tomorrow, gratitude meeting, which last week was a really nice meeting. And yeah, be grateful and pray. Thank you.
Okay. Gratitude. You come to gratitude meeting, we talk about 25 things you're grateful for. That's what you shoot for, and then you can take, if you go for you at least come up with 25 things. It's great to get your gratitude going. It really helps your whole week.
Yes.
Anybody else want to do actions?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm grateful for life at this particular time with these particular people that have just meant so much in my life. And I'm not talking about just this group, but all the little groups that I'm in.
Yep. Anybody else? Action. Okay.
Yes, I'm planning to under schedule, take things and important things off my to-do list, rest more and spend more time with family, and just focus on the essential tasks at hand. It's almost Christmas, it's not time for rushing around and trying to solve everything in the last 2 weeks of the year. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Okay. In closing here, the opinions expressed here today are strictly the ones people who gave them. The things you heard or spoken in confidence and should be treated as confidential. We do not take out the meeting. Outside the meeting, who we hear at the meeting, if you try to absorb what you have heard, you're bound to gain a better understanding of the way to handle your problems and begin to change your life, talk to each other, reason things out with someone else. Let there be no gossip or criticism of one another, but only love, understanding, companionship. Now, please, everyone unmute and all who care to join us in the we version of the St. Francis prayer. Talking about St. Francis, there he is. God, Lord, I should say, makes the channel thy peace.
Lord, make us a channel of thy peace, that there is.
Where there's hatred, we may bring love.
And love,
that where there's wrong, we may bring the spirit of forgiveness.
The spirit of the forgiveness, that where
there's discord, we may bring harmony. Where there's error, we may bring truth.
That
where there's doubt, we may bring faith.
That
And where
where
there's despair, we may bring hope.
hope. That where
And where there's
there's
shadows, we may bring light.
we may bring light. That
And where there's sadness, we may
sadness,
bring joy. Lord,
Lord,
grant that we seek rather to comfort than to be comforted.
for them to understand and
To understand, to be understood.
to
To
love,
love
and
than to be loved. For as by self-forgetting that one finds,
self-forgiving that one finds,
it's by giving that one is
giving
forgiven.
that one is forgiven. It is
It's by
by
dying that awakens to eternal life.
Amen.
Amen. Bless you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
It's now time for the newcomers meeting. Is anybody, you want to say anything in the newcomers meeting? You want to say anything, just kind of ask questions or talk or chat or anything? I'm here to ask questions.
I would like you to kind of develop. You talk sometimes about the cross, and I understand it because I have heard the message before. But you say it in a way that it's more. It's kind of. I'm asking to elaborate a little bit. To elaborate a little bit about this. The cross.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. I came across this really when I read a guy named Miles Stanford's book called the Green Letters, and he's talking about Keswick and what Keswick was teaching. And so the Keswick conferences, they started in 1875, and they were basically teaching, how John Nelson Darby's emphasis that when, and I'll say it again, Romans chapter 6, and I may have already said this to you, but Romans chapter 6 basically says, do you not understand that when Christ died on Calvary, you died with him? Since we die with him, we think we'll also live with him. Therefore, basically, the short version is reckon yourself to be dead. What I can do is I can put that up on the screen real quick, like, since you're here and not going anywhere for right now, we'll put that on the screen.
You want to keep recording the meeting?
Oh, that's right. We'll end the recording. That's fine. We know the recording. That's good. End recording. Stop recording. Stop. There we go. Stop.